At the same time I read for quality, I also think about suggestions that I can add. Here's a very simple example. In 3.1b, which was about proportions, I just suggested one question that had gone well in my class before, and that's all I do. I think about other ways that I've done the lesson or other problems I've had students use to reinforce their learning, and I suggest those. In 3.1c, one thing that students were focusing on was order of magnitude. So this shows how students could just cross those out. Now the lesson was designed to go without a calculator, but I thought one thing that students might think was cool based on my experience was just to go ahead and cross out a few digits and then use the calculator. This is especially important if you're using very, very large numbers and a calculator only has 10 or 12 digits. I will also sometimes just see if I can find something very interesting. I'll do an internet search. Lesson 3.1d was giving some background about reapportionment, and so I didn't put much time to this. I just did like a Google search on reapportionment, and one thing that I found out that was kind of interesting was there was a decade that Congress refused to reapportion. That could have led to some very interesting things in the United States if the government wouldn't have gotten back on with the reapportioning a couple years later. I will also just sort of think about what I would be curious about if I were a student. So in lesson 3.1d, in the debriefing, one thing that I was curious about is how many people does the average representative represent? Because although they divide these up among the states, if you have a population of 300 million and 485 representatives, it's pretty straightforward to figure out how many people the average representative represents. Finally, I have a spot in my heart for technical stuff, so at the very end I also think about technical. In 3.1c, there were some order of magnitude problems, and it would be very easy to write a computer program that created problems where students had to estimate order of magnitude. Well, again, this isn't one to think, pair, share on. This is one where, after the pause, I would like you to reflect on the work that you looked at earlier today. And you may have already suggested some things. If so, what did you suggest? Or what do you want to suggest now that you're thinking about it? And since we're talking about suggestions, I'd like you to also reflect on this presentation. And are there some changes that you think could be made that would make this better? And I also could very easily add a slide with suggestions that you have. So when you review, what do you do? What things that I haven't covered do you do during reviews? And if you're willing, I can add those to the presentation at the end pretty easily. Again, feel free to send me any questions. My information is back on the front slide, which we can go back to at the end. And thank you for your time. I hope we reach that goal where everyone took away at least one idea for how to change the strategy review. And again, thank you.